The show. This is still GH today here on GHOne. It's now time for Hard Talk. And on the hot seat this morning is the Member of Parliament for Assin South. He was a former minister, Deputy Minister for Education, Reverend GHOne Ntim Fordjour. He's back on the seat. Good morning. How are you?
I'm great, Lily. Yourself?
I'm doing awesome. How has it been? You're now on the Defense Committee. How has it been?
Yeah, it's been exciting being the ranking member for the Defense and Interior Committee. It's an interesting role because it's very insightful. You get to contribute your quota in maintaining, the peace, internal security and stability of our country, contributing to the public safety sector and the broader security sector governance. It's exciting so far.
You met the various heads of the security agencies to consider their budget estimates. From where you sit, is it enough?
I can say that it's inadequate, woefully inadequate. The entire allocation to the public safety sector, and there we're talking about Ministry of Interior, Ministry of Defense, and all the security agencies under them, particularly Fire Service, Ghana Prison Service, Immigration, Ghana Police, and all the Ghana Armed Forces and all the arms under them, and some very key narcotics control and all that. For some would say that within a modest means of the state, we'll make do with what's available. But for many other agencies, it's so important that we push for them to be prioritized. And so it is an advocacy that all of us will have to join. At the end of the day, it is one country we all have. And the men and women in uniform and officers are doing their very best. We have some of the smartest and some of the most diligent professionals within our security agencies who are sacrificing most patriotically, doing their best, very diligent at what they do. But they need the tools, they need the support, they need the resources. They are underfunded, and it's important that we all heighten, particularly those at the bottom low of the ladder. All of them are, like I said, are underfunded, but there are a few ones that we need to single out and see how the Minister for
A few ones
Finance,
like the Ghana National Fire Service?
Absolutely. We have, just a few days ago, the Speaker of Parliament made a referral to a Committee of Defense and Interior jointly with the Committee on Local Government. And our task is to investigate the recent spate of fire outbreaks that have raged down markets, Kantamanto markets, Adum Market, Odumasi, Konongo, Techiman, and other related market fire incidents, which have denied the livelihoods of many people, wiped out the investment and lifetime earnings of people. So we are going to go into all these. But these incidents have also brought to light certain, weaknesses and certain challenges that we need to address.
Okay.
And I say that, I dare say that the Ghana National Fire Service is one of the agencies or state agencies in this country which has been so unfairly, bastardized. It's been so misperceived, and whenever there's fire outbreak, everybody, inadvertently wants to blame it at fire service. When you call them and there's delay, we blame it at them. When they are there and they're struggling to fit the accessories to extinguish the fire, we blame them. And when water runs out, we blame them. When the water hydrant is ineffective or is non-existent or is not maintained and there's really no water in it and they are constrained in effectively attacking the fire and extinguishing it, we blame all that on them.
Who do we blame?
And so, they are not the people to blame. We have to blame, one, the state for the past 15 years, underfunding that sector. If I'm to tell you the number of fire tenders we have in this country, you'll be sad. And particularly the hydraulic platform fire tenders, which can go to heights and be able to extinguish fire outbreak to the fourth floor, fifth floor. We have only 3 in the whole of this country. And
where are they stationed, these 3?
One is in Kumasi, one is Accra, and there's another somewhere else. Okay. But it's important we resource them. And most of the equipment are outdated. Elsewhere, by 5 years, they change change all the equipment, they consider them obsolete. But we are still dealing with very old equipment.
When was the last time it was changed? I mean, if you have the briefing.
No, the equipment we are using are very old. Most of them are very old.
Like how many years
needs,
ago?
I may not be able to go into all the details,
okay,
but for some circumspective reasons. But I want to say that the generality of the equipment we are using, they are old. Some of them, even when they break down, you can't even easily get their spare parts to fix. What we need to do is complete retooling. We need also to be able to purchase rapid intervention vehicles. Those are the smaller ones. Those are the ones that look like pickups, pickup trucks. So they can easily maneuver and quickly get to the scene until the fire tender, the quantum fire tender, big ones come in there, because maneuverability is a problem in this country. Settlement planning is a big problem. So before the big ones can even maneuver to get to the scene, they get to this street that's blocked, somebody's shop is here, somebody's container, somebody's house, and they will have to go round and round in some streets that are not really accessible. But the smaller ones, if available, and we place them at vantage point in districts, in urban areas at strategic points, they will easily get in there, and the response time will be very fast. By the time they get in there, we must also remember that no matter how full the water that should be in the tanks, the tender may be, within 3-5 minutes on the scene, it will be finished. It will run out. So when fire service people come on the scene and water runs out, it is not that they didn't fill their tender. That's how it is supposed to be. Then they must quickly plug into the water hydrants that is available, which is supposed to be installed by Ghana Water Company, which is supposed to be maintained by Ghana Water Company, because they take revenue. Every water bill that you pay, 1% goes to servicing that. So it is the responsibility of Ghana Water Company to install those fire hydrants, maintain them.
But how many do we have now? As a child, when I was growing up in Community 1, I used to see them dotted across. Anytime you're playing, you're making sure that you don't go close because you could injure yourself. Today, I barely see them.
Yeah, because some people have been built on them. The Techiman incident, for instance, videos came up where somebody for the past 50 years had built, put concrete, tiled, and put a container on a fire hydrant, and they've been shopping, doing their trading as if there is no authority or no state agency whose job it is to regulate and enforce that particular regulation. And so many of them, we have shops, homes, and other things sitting on them. Some have also not been maintained. Then we also need to install in additional places, additional installations in high-risk areas. Markets, high-risk areas need to have sufficient installations. That task force is one of the things we're going to advocate strongly for, a joint task force to be mounted to conduct nationwide audits in conjunction with MMDAs, nationwide audits of where hydrants must be, where they are and need to be maintained, new ones that have to be installed. And when we do so, we'll need to also have a conversation going forward how that can be maintained, so that fire service will be supported, and people will not have to vent their frustration. And like we saw on the video in the attempt of the National Fire Service to extinguish fire that broke out in the Adum Market. You saw the regional minister throwing tantrums at the officers who were doing their job. And calling them all kinds of names and using all kinds of words unbecoming of a minister.
And you have called him egoistic.
It is arrogant. It is not humility. And it is demoralizing. He even went further. He has ordered the termination, transfers of some people, and some apologies had even had to be written by the chief fire officer. I hear it has been rejected. And so what kind of arrogance, what kind of display of arrogance are we seeing? When you are given power, all of us have been deputy ministers or ministers, but you have to be humble because these are colleagues. We are all serving the public with them. They sacrifice their lives, and they go out there. Some even die with a fire. And in the recent incident that occurred in Odumase, when there were some explosions, the explosion affected the men who were on site extinguishing fire. And as we speak, fire service personnel in Odumase are fighting for their lives in the hospital. And some of them, when they are even discharged, may not be able to return to work. They can never work again. And that is the kind of risk these officers, gallant officers,
put their lives through into maintaining public safety.
Don't you also think that in the spate or in the spur of the moment, tempests were high? These were lives at stake. These were livelihoods of people at stake. And so if I am a minister, I go to the grounds, I do not have full-scale detail. I ask for detail, and you tell me the contrary. Don't you think I have evidence? What was the contrary? And that is what I said, that a lot of stakeholders, and as a regional minister, he must have had a lot of briefing, because he works with the regional chief fire officer, works with them. He's a REXA chair. He should have his intelligence and briefings, and he should be aware that in the operations of fire service,
combating fire.
Yes, combating fire, no matter how big the fire tender is, if it is not the helicopter type we don't have in this country, where you can have chemical powder that can, just be sprayed to attack the fire, whether it's highly inflammable or whether it's just combustible, like we saw in California. If it is just this water fire tenders, they operate with water, and the volume in that fire tender, even the biggest one, within 3-5 minutes, it will run out. So if you came there and saw that their tanks were empty, it's not that they are ineffective or incompetent. And he should have taken his time so that they explain things to him. But there's camera on him, camera on the people. I mean, this kind of TikToking and camera things, let's get serious with business. We are combating fire. That's not the time cameras and all that are necessary, and putting officers, allow them to do their job. They interviewed the Ashanti regional commander. One of the journalists put a camera on him. He was very polite and said, look, yes, we are trying to do our job. And then a few minutes, and then he walked away professionally. So the regional minister should have, even if he was compelled to speak to the cameras, should have just spoken for a few minutes and rather give morale to the people to work, not to get into altercations that are avoidable. So we have taken interest. We are saying that if you cannot do anything to resource the men and women in uniform, to resource them with the requisite tools and equipment to more effectively combat fire, and you cannot also motivate them, the least you can do is to threaten them and politically intimidate them, order their transfers and terminations here and there. We will stand with every worker, every officer of the National Fire Service to ensure they do not suffer any egoistic political orders for their unfair termination, transfers, or whatsoever. We have engaged the chief fire officer. We have obtained her assurances, and fairness will be done. No further disciplinary action whatsoever ought to be preferred. We need to let matters die where it is. There's been some apology letter very competently written to the regional minister. If he felt offensive by any words whatsoever from any officer, that letter, signed by a whole chief fire officer of the country, should suffice. And let's drop political egos and rather focus on the more important issues of resourcing the service to more effectively.
You have had a problem with the shake-up in the military recently. Why?
Yes, and it's good you have very effective, constructive opposition. The minority rose up, and we rose up not just to criticize, because security is sensitive. Ghana Armed Forces is all we have. And so it is important that in managing transitions, it is done with absolute circumspection, without any tendency of introducing politics or sacrificing meritocracy on the altar of politics. And we saw some elements in there, and we rose forcefully, and quickly we saw some changes, though not to the extent that we wanted. But we are okay for now with the changes that were occasioned by the concerns we raised and how things are going to be managed. One of the first concerns we raised was that every president that assumes office in the Fourth Republic have had their constitutional prerogative. They've exercised it. They've had to appoint new chief of defense staff. And sometimes they even go further after changing the chief of defense staff. They change the chief of staff of Ghana Armed Forces. And at the minimum, those are just the 2 changes. Sometimes they do just about 3 changes. We saw President Kufuor how smoothly he managed the transition from President Rawlings. We saw how President Atamels took over, made minimal changes, and then continued working with the commandants and the security chiefs he came to meet. And then we saw how President Akufo-Addo, when he came in, he just changed the Chief of Defense Staff, changed the Chief of Army Staff, and in replacing them, he replaced them with the Chief of Army Staff that President Mohammed had appointed and worked with. That was the man that he promoted, Major General Obedbo Amakwa at the time. He was the Mohammed appointed Chief of Army Staff. And that was the man President Akufo-Addo appointed Chief of Defense Staff. And in finding replacement for the Chief of Army Staff, he looked through and asked around, consulted who is the next most senior general, and it was General Ayamdo. And then he was appointed. But for the Chief of Naval Staff and Chief of Air Staff that he came to meet, no changes were made. He worked with them till their end of term in 2019. And so we were expecting same to have been done. But be that as it may, there were changes. Okay. But the changes went too deep. So that is the concern we had. It was too deep, jumping from intake 26 all the way to intake 30. And it was even in some instance all the way to intake 34. But that intake 34, we spoke about it and it has been reversed. So you saw in the final publication that came, there were changes made from the first communication that came, and that's we are okay, and we support the transition.
What's the status of the Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill?
Yeah, the Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill has commenced its legislative processes in Parliament. As we submitted to Speaker of Parliament and to the clerk, it was referred. Speaker quickly referred it to the Legislative Drafting Department, who looked at it and then also gave their opinion, a legal opinion. We quickly conducted fiscal impact analysis on it just to determine that it is not going to have an additional fiscal imposition or financial imposition on the state because it is a private member's bill. And that was done. It fell within the eligibility criteria, and then we are now progressing. So we are very hopeful that as we are busy with budget estimates now, after preparation, by the time we are back from recess, from somewhere next week when we go on recess, by the time we are back, it will go for gazetting, and when it matures, it will be laid on the floor for subsequent consequential considerations.
Okay. There are a few questions on my mind. So regarding retooling the Ghana National Fire Service and how we should deal with the market fires. But let's do some celebrations now, and then we can come back to this conversation.
Very well.
Let's do some celebrations now. But we'll bring you a part 2 of this conversation with Reverend GHOne in Ntim Fordjour. My name is Lily Mohammed. You're welcome back to the show. It is still Hard Talk here on GHOne TV. My guest is still seated, Reverend GHOne in Ntim Fordjour, is a member of Parliament for Assin South. He was a former Deputy Minister for Education. He's now the ranking on the Defense and Interior Committee in Parliament. He has a few qualms with the management and handling of fire service personnel. He also has issues with the military shakeup. Why do you have issues with the military shakeup? Every president comes in, he wants to feel comfortable with the people he works with.
Yeah, very much so. And that presidential prerogative, no one is taking away from the president until such a time when the bill that I want to champion, together with my friends, on providing security of tenure for security chiefs.
Okay,
so,
you're sponsoring
yes,
a bill.
it's something that we are considering very seriously.
Okay,
so,
okay.
To provide security of tenure for all security chiefs, from Chief of Defense Staff, IGP, Chief Fire Service Officer, and all the Director General Prisons, Controller General Immigration, just like we've done for the Chief Justice, we've done for Chairperson of the Electoral Commission, we've done for the Special Prosecutor, such that if a turnover occurs and a new president comes to meet these security chiefs midterm, they are compelled to work with them until their term ends. That is going to be a big boost for professionalism within the security sector, and ensure that impartiality and neutrality and professionalism are heightened. So every officer at that rank will know that it's not about who I voted for, and it's not about which party I belong, if I may even belong to any party at all. Once I'm in uniform, my loyalty is to the state and to the president elected. So if I even voted for a president who didn't win, whoever has won, I have to align my loyalty to the person and to the state and to align my operations to the vision of the president. That also will remove the discretionary issues that sometimes, the only time we have had a problem with is President Mohammed. We never had a problem with President Kufuor's transition. We never had a problem with President Mills' transition. We never had a problem with President Akufo-Addo. Because 15 generals don't have to go home because you are making changes. You know, all 2-star generals and equivalents and above, totaling about 15 or so, had to be terminated, you know, compulsorily, just because their junior had been appointed Chief of Defense Staff. And that is how the command service in Ghana Armed Forces operates. Some of them have about 4 to 6 years more.
We need to vary the terms of how the command services operate then.
Yeah, so those are some of the legislations I will be considering. Okay. So that subsequent presidents will not have to come and sweep away 15, 20 generals just because I can't work with you, and all that. So that it has a lot of ripple effect on morale. And so that is what we want to introduce, because what has happened is unprecedented. It has never happened before. This many number of generals going home, some having 4 years, 6 years more to serve before their retirement, prematurely going home. We've never seen it. Presidents had to change 2 or 3 or 4, and that's the best we've seen. But that said, we raised some concerns. Some changes were made. Okay. Even though we didn't get to where we wanted, we need to pause it here and support what has been done, because at least some changes were made. And to congratulate the Chief of Defense Staff, Major General William Japon, and all the service chiefs and the Chief of Staff of the Ghana Armed Forces, Vice Marshal Joshua Mensah Lakai, very well-deserved appointment. So we are happy with that. But we are not done. We want to monitor to ensure that the major consequential promotions within the backlog of colonels and lieutenant colonels to be able to fill these positions that have become vacant is even more crucial than what has been done. Okay. Because many have gone. As they've gone on compulsory retirement, the various units and commandants and the various commands and brigades will have to be, you need generals, some 1-star, some 2-star, to man these ones. And so they are going to have to promote colonels who are due, and then promote lieutenant colonels. Some are so due side that if you don't promote them, you know, this year, by next year, if you promote their junior, compulsorily they retire. So we want to ensure that that promotion, which will even affect many more people, is done in straight basis of merit. There should be no political whatsoever considerations, and it should be by rank, it should be by meritocracy, it should be by credentials, it should be by performance, it should be merited. That will boost morale within the rank and file. And so we are going to monitor that very keenly. And we say so because there were some utterances which NDC stalwarts pronounced publicly. Sami Jemfi, the communications officer of the NDC, in 2023 and then consistently all the way to 2024 on platforms, which video is available widely. Your producer may even play it. He said he threatened all security chiefs, and said security chiefs in this country, heads of various security institutions, military, police, your term of office is conterminous with that of President Akufo-Addo. The day President Akufo-Addo gets out of office, all of you, your service comes to an end. When he made those statements, they were very reckless. They were reckless, irresponsible statements. Nobody condemned those statements. And people thought that, oh, this one is not going to be anything to go by. But for once, NDC kept that promise. They kept that promise and cleared everybody. Cleared Chief Officer, cleared Director General of Prisons, cleared Controller General of Immigration, cleared IGP, cleared Chief of Defense Staff, cleared Chief of Army Staff, cleared Chief of Naval Staff, cleared Chief of Air Staff, and even cleared all the other 2-star generals. And so it gives credence to that threat that came. And that is why some of us are concerned that military and the security sector is so sensitive that politicians must be restrained from introducing color. And that is why, given how the first one went, we are so vigilant on ensuring that fairly the promotions within the colonels and lieutenant colonels should be done strictly merit-based.
On the other leg, where you say that presidents who come in should be able to work, you're sponsoring a bill to that effect, which will cover that. Shouldn't these things be tabled to the Constitutional Amendment Committee?
Yeah, these are also very rightful for that, because we're in that season. We're going to make all those proposals. In addition to that, there are also, yes, it's very, very important, because some of the clauses may be entrenched.
In the Constitution, exactly.
If you have to go through referendum. So with this opportunity, we're going to table all these concerns, and we're very optimistic that it will find traction.
You talked about the Ghana National Fire Service and the need for retooling. You talk about the fact that their machines or the equipment have been obsolete for years. Now, the critical question in my mind is, didn't the NPP at the time see all these things? Was the NPP not committed to retooling the Ghana National Fire Service? Because I have sat here on this platform, engaged fire service personnel who sang the same song you're singing now over the years, within the last 8 years.
Yeah, that's a very intelligent question, Lily, I must say. And that is why right at the outset, I said that this conversation ought to be non-partisan. It has to be a dispassionate conversation. It's a matter of security and things about security, public safety. We don't have to politicize it, because when fire guards a property, it doesn't know which one is an MPP property or an NDC property. So, and I also submitted that in the past 15 years, the allocations to the sector have been inadequate. NPP have also been part of the 15 years. So it's not politics we're doing here, but it's a worthy conversation that we must have and address dispassionately. The initial estimation that I know, we need minimum 1 billion cedis.
Okay.
To fully retool the National Fire Service alone.
And currently, what is the estimate for?
I would not, for matters of circumspection,
okay,
I would have you indulge me so that I don't make certain disclosures.
Okay,
but
because
what
it's a matter of security concern.
Yes,
right.
But what we need is 1 billion cedis to be able to retool the sector. And if I'm to tell you how much is allocated to them this year, it's woefully inadequate. They can't do that. But we need to have a conversation. You know, and I'm very, very excited about the innovations that the Minister for Interior, Honorable Muntaka Mubarak, is bringing on board. And all of us have to support him to be able to pursue those innovations. If we're able to pursue those innovations, we should be able to get to a point where in the medium term, we can raise that 1 billion to be able to retool that sector for the safety of all of us.
As part of measures to retooling the service, are you also considering Parliament? Because we know that the fire station at Parliament it's, for want of a better expression, is under-resourced.
So it's general. We wouldn't pick and choose.
Okay.
We wouldn't say Parliament is more important than any other property, and for which we should just resource Parliament and leave the rest. But we are not also going to say that the Parliament's setup of fire service is not up to task. It is good in the shape and form that it is. However, if an improvement is to come, that's welcome. But we are looking at the generality of the service, and any other sector or institution that will benefit from that upgrade, well good.
Now that you talk about Parliament, I'll veer off a bit from Defence and Interior. You say that for Parliament, we will not pick and choose. I have heard the minority leaders say that Parliament needs a special clinic or a special health facility. Do you as parliamentarians need it?
The health of members of Parliament should not be underestimated, just as any other Ghanaian's health should not be, underrated. And so those calls were conversations that had started. We've had others who also have views contrary to that of the minority leader, but the conversation is ongoing. But at the moment, I'm sure there are other conversations which have come to show that they have bigger weight than that conversation that started. So let's see how it goes.
Okay, now let's come back to security issues. How do we deal with these recurring market fires?
One of the things we have to do is to look at our settlement planning, how we even plan our markets, and to ensure that they meet legislations and they meet standards. We also have to advise our our traders that the setup of your shop, your store, should be done properly. Just get advice from the personnel from Ghana Fire Service. They will support you to configure your shop in a way that will be, will be attractive for even insurance to come in. And once insurance is coming in, they will make sure there are proper installations to minimize the risk. And I can tell you, many of the markets in Ghana, no insurance company will offer insurance to them. Because when they come and conduct the actual inspections, the risk will be too high, and they won't give you insurance, no matter how high you want to offer. And so we need to do something about the setup and even the settlement of these markets. That said, we also have to cure the matter of Dumso. Dumso has been one of the major issues and contributors to starting fires that have gutted markets. The Adum Market incident, for instance, the initial investigations I have done, if you talk to 10 traders affected by this fire in Adum, 8 of them will tell you that it was Dumso. The power fluctuations caused this fire. That is what majority of them are saying. We'll go further to ascertain or whether it is true or otherwise, but it's not something we should discount. So electrical issues and power handling, and it should be looked at. And then the matter of explosives being sold in the markets, as if it is tomatoes or shoes. You can't just sell dynamite and explosives in the market like any other commodity, because there's a regulation that regulates the transportation and storage and handling of explosives right from the ports and all the way to where they have to be kept and where they have to be used. Haven't we learned lessons from the Apiate incident, where explosion wiped out an entire community? It took the state and the benevolence of some philanthropists to come to their aid to reconstruct Apiate. And the whole country, we came up in arms, and we had to put in investigations and recommendations here and there. But what happened in Odumase Konongo, goes to suggest that we may not have learned much. And there may be other markets somewhere housing some of these dynamites, which must be dealt with. So it calls for a multi-sectoral collaboration, MMDAs, Ministry of Local Government, Ministry of Interior, and all relevant agencies to come on board. Let us strictly enforce the rules that have been put into our laws and ensure the safety of our people.
You said that you spoke to, from the investigations you've conducted, you spoke to a few traders, and they say that they can independently say that they can blame the market fire, the Adum Market fire, on the power fluctuations. Is this backed by science?
Oh, yes, science. Electricity is science. Electricity is science and data, science and data. So 8 out of 10, that's data. But on a more serious note, Lily, we'll go deeper into the matter. And so
the Electricity Company of Ghana says Dumso cannot be blamed for that market fire.
They were too premature in taking themselves out of that. They should be sensitive to the people, about 6,000 people who have lost their livelihoods, who have lost their stores, who have lost their investments because of Dumso. Because they've been in those stores for all these years, and they know how things have gone. So they should not be quick to absolve themselves from blame. An independent body like this committee, we are going to, without prejudice, if we come out and we're able to ascertain all factors, and we say that, from our findings, we do not think it is Dumso, then ECG can come in. But it's too early for them. They should be busy fixing Dumso. They should be busy fixing the fluctuations in power to keep our lights on. We are paying for it. They should keep it on. All Ghanaians are asking, keep the lights on and stop the fluctuation that results in destruction of appliances in homes, and that results in the fire that wipes out people's investment. But Lily, this country has demonstrated that we are truly, empathetic as a state. And the state has set precedent, demonstrated that we are responsive whenever our compatriots are distressed. And so in Apiate, for instance, the state led in 2023, the government led that effort with philanthropists who mobilized resources, went and reconstructed the whole community, put them back in livelihood. We also saw the unfortunate Akosombo Dam spillage that flooded homes and farms of our good friends and brothers in the Volta region, and how in the 2025 budget, the government made an allocation of 242 million cedis to support the victims. It's a worthy gesture which I support. The budget also further voted 200 million cedis to support victims of the tidal wave that happened around Keta, Kitu, South, and that area, which is a worthy allocation I support. In much the same principle and precedent, equally deserving are the people of Kantamanto. Equally deserving are the people of Konongo Dumase. Equally deserving are the people of Adum. Equally deserving are the people in Techiman, who have also been distressed, lost their investment, their shops, their stores, properties gutted, livelihoods gone. We also have to vote commensurate budgetary allocation to support the victims so that in all fairness, we treat our citizens equally and go on to demonstrate that we do not have any partiality. If our brothers or sisters in one area who, when they were in distress, the state came to their aid, we should not leave the victims of Adum to the benevolence of, I hear some 600,000 was given and they are sharing 600,000 for 6,000 people. What is that going to do? So the state should have a more comprehensive financial approach to supporting the people of Adum, the people of Konongo Dumase, the people of Techiman and Kantamanto, so that their livelihoods are brought back, just like we are doing for our very good brothers and sisters in the Volta region.
Talking about empathy and impartiality, yesterday the former Vice President, Dr. Mohammed visited the scene, commiserated with victims and made donations. Why did the Vice President choose the Ashanti region? Is it because it's the World Bank of the NPP? The tidal wave also happened this year. Why did the Vice President not visit them?
Well, the Vice President has visited many victims who were in distress, from our PHA to most of these incidents that I mentioned. And so he hasn't shown impartiality. Okay. And so for the record, he hasn't shown impartiality at all. He has demonstrated fairness to all. He had commiserated with all who were affected in various disasters, not even limited to the ones I have mentioned at all.
At this particular visit, the Vice President mentioned categorically that he's urging government to complete phase 2 of the KGTR market. KGTR market phase 2, those people have been waiting 8 years ago, 5 years ago. Why didn't the MPP?
Yeah, whenever those conversations come up, it's almost as if, yes, if you have been in government for 8 years, then you don't have any rights to make certain demands. That is not governance. There's a reason why a government is in power. There's a reason why you have taken over. And so once you take over, it is your responsibility to continue, because governments are continuing. And we have a local adage that says, "Edijawa, near the aswang." So if you come to meet it and we hand it over to you, it is responsibility. If you're enjoying the privileges that come with it, you must also be reminded about the responsibility. The KGTR Market Phase 2 is an iconic project. It's so important to the good people in Ashanti region, especially
was it important to the
Kumasi.
NPP at the time?
It has been important to all of us, and they have taken over at this point in time. We are not in power. They are in power. And so, be that as it may, they are the ones responsible to continue, and the call is on them to continue.
Okay, let's end with the. There's a particular issue that I want to touch on. That's the removal of the CJ. Before I come to the Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill, because I want to. The president says it will be state-sponsored, whether or not that will defeat your private member's bill.
But has the president introduced any bill? It's just paying lip service. It's just rhetoric. He just say, "Oh, I'll bring a bill. I'll bring it." Has it brought any bill? No. When we started the budget, how many bills have amendments here and there? Several of them have been introduced. And so it's not about, oh, we have not been in government for. If the president truly wants to sponsor any such bill to deal with LGBT-related practices, he should quickly bring it. Until he brings it, All we have pending in the 9th Parliament is the private members bill we are dealing with. No one can say that throw it away or stand it down until such a time, indefinitely, when we don't even know whether the president, and I am saying it on this your show, Lily, there's no way President Mohammed will ever introduce any such bill. He will never sponsor any such bill.
Why do you have that conviction?
Mark my words. President Mohammed will never sponsor any state-sponsored, government-sponsored bill against LGBT. Mark my words.
Why?
We're in this country. 4 years will come. You come and bring me your stone. So all we have is this bill. And that is the hope of the 93%, the only hope of the 93% of the population, overwhelming majority of Ghanaians, to be able to protect, preserve our practices, our norms, our beliefs, and our beautiful and respectable culture. That is all we have. And so we are not waiting for something that may never even come, and it will not come.
But have you heard from the Speaker regarding the status of your bill?
He's so supportive. Speaker Babing has been consistent from 2021 when this bill was introduced. He has been super consistent in his stance, and he still continues to support. But I must say, you touched on the Chief Justice.
Yes.
But there's another one I need to dovetail into. If some people said, oh, President Mahama and NDC got some goodwill because they obtained 6.3 million votes, but this goodwill is never the same as we speak.
How so?
Because of some very unpopular actions, mass termination of employment unfairly, political vindictiveness, he freed all the 12 high-profile, people, all the cases, financial crimes to tunes of billions of hundreds of billions of cedis and dollars. He freed his people, and then he started going after MPP people and attacking them, raiding their homes. Jakpa led raids. Jakpa is left, right, center, pumping his guns with bullets, and confidently with armed people, just entering and barging and raiding people's homes, attacking MPP.
Legal searches, now, they have termed it.
However they want to call it. All these are eroding their goodwill. If anybody has done something in the past, even present or past, the rule of law can take its course. You can prosecute them without all these political showmanship and machoism and all the vindictiveness. It's not necessary. They should focus. If there are prosecutions, they should go ahead. They are now going further to attack. They've attacked the Chief Justice. They are demonstrating further. They want to. I've heard Honorable Kwacho Fosu say several times what they want to do to the Chief Justice. I am not surprised. They've commenced these processes, and many others from here. They will go to the electoral commissioner. From there, they want to just clear everybody, just like Sami Jeffy said. Or all of you, your term is conterminous with that. That is not good governance. Now, for the first time, history is going to be made if we do not rise up in this country. That history that's going to be made is that President Mahama will be the first president who will come and persecute top clerics, top clergymen, the leaders, the fathers of this land, the fathers of Christianity, notable fathers of the Christian sect. President Mahama and his oral team, they are going after them. They want to jail them. They want to disgrace them. They want to persecute them. And some of us will not sit down for our fathers to be disgraced, to be dragged in the mud. In relation to the National Cathedral.
Okay.
Yes, see, one thing I must say is that, and I say this very carefully, advisedly, and most respectfully, with the greatest of respect. But Christians in this country, we should be very measured how we throw Christianity under the bus whenever issues of Christianity come up. And the kind of passion and excesses and whatever we want to attach to it. When the National Cathedral issue came, it almost became an abomination that such a project should even come up. It was attacked right from the beginning, be that as it may, wherever status that it is. If there are issues around it, it should be resolved. But we should not give the dog a bad name just to hang it. And in the process, go after top pastors who did not do any wrong, but were just associated with this worthy project to support it, for the worthy place to be constructed and built for the whole country to worship God. We bastardized Christians. Muslims didn't take part. Buddhists didn't take part. Traditionalists didn't take part. It took our own Christians who led that onslaught. That onslaught give credence, give oxygen to a persecution that is now going to result in some of our very revered fathers, if we do not intervene, who are going to be disgraced. Some of us will not sit down for President Mohammed to make that history.
But
whatever length we will go, we will protect our fathers. We will protect our fathers. Wherever length we will go, we will not allow. Our fathers is all we have. We will not allow any president, politician to disgrace them in any attempt to score any political points. There are many cases that should be prosecuted. Have they done? You are freeing all those cases, and you want to disgrace our fathers, our prophets, our bishops, our archbishops, our apostles. We would not allow that to happen.
Do the cloak of clergy, or does the cloak of clergy insulate you from the rule of law?
Does the cloak of politics or political cronyism insulate or give immunity to any political class or any friend related to a politician from prosecution? So if the answer is no, why has he freed the 12 high-profile cases and wanting to go after our fathers?
Why not allow the rule of law to take
no.
its course? If the rule of law,
if the rule of law will be taken, will be allowed to take its course, he should first bring back those cases, reintroduce them, let trial continue. Then nobody will have qualms. But that principle of selectivity, selecting, picking, and choosing, it is shameful. And for us, we won't sit down. No matter, they can join some of us to the persecution. But whatever they will do to us, we will take the bullet for our fathers. We will not stand for our fathers, for anybody's political ambition or political egoism to touch them. We would not allow anyone to touch our fathers. Touch not the anointed. They just came, in good faith, just to support, so that they were. We have National Cathedral.
How much money was spent in the National Cathedral project? 58 million, right?
I'll come to that. But it's a project that hasn't ended.
It has not even started, has it?
You're talking about 258 million, right? $200 million has been pumped into the Hajj village. Have you heard any Muslim criticizing it? Have you heard any Muslim? They would never do that.
Why?
Because they won't make the mistake Christians made. They will never do that. They will never bastardize their projects. But we live in a secular state. We live in a state that has multi-faith. But we, the Christian sect, must not sit down for our fathers to be disgraced. Because you touch the shepherd and the sheep will scatter. And so it is not a matter that should be left with, it is rule of law, it is law, and all. If it is law, why has that same law left some people off the hook? People who were already facing persecution. Why don't you continue? You left them because they are your friends, they are your party people, but you want to go after neutral, impartial pastors, bishops, fathers, apostles, people who have lived all their lives serving Christ without any blemish. You want to come and ding their reputation, and by extension, ding the reputation of the Christian community, who about over 73% of the population.
Wrongs? Because if we have
they done
sunk
any wrong?
58 million into a hole, don't you think
pastors,
for us as Ghanaians, we have every reason to question it?
What wrong have the pastors done?
They superintended over that.
Do you have any facts, any evidence to the fact that, or does President Mahama or his oral team have any evidence to the fact that any of these pastors diverted any funds?
Well, we're not talking about the diversion of funds. We're talking about superintending over a wrong. Because if I have invested money in something, I'm sure if you invest in something, you would want to reap benefits. So if, as a country, we have invested 58 million, don't you think that we have every reason to ask what our monies were expended on?
Yeah, you can ask questions, but you don't ask questions by going after persecuting innocent pastors.
Right.
Yes, these pastors are innocent, and the impression must not be created. And I'm saying so. You saw how they came, their media trial. They came, the Attorney General came on air, held a press conference, and said all kinds of things about individuals, even before they are trialed. Even before primary facie case will be charged and put before the court for court to try them. He has come, NDC has come, to try them in the media, pronounce them guilty, pass judgment on them, and completely smear their reputation and painted a very bad picture of them to the entire country and beyond the shores of this country. And the next thing they are going to do is to conduct media trial of these innocent pastors, say all kinds of fabrications about them, and then lump all of them together and persecute them and destroy the image of Christianity before any court may even, may even proceed. And that is what we are signaling to the president, that this Christian community will not do. If you are among the 6.3 million people who voted for President Mahama and you call yourself a Christian, don't sit down for our pastors, our fathers, to be trialed in the media and disgraced and destroyed. It will destroy the very foundation of the religion and the practice we believe in. If you touch the shepherd, the sheep will scatter, and we will put a resistance to that. And I expect a bipartisan coalition on this fight. Whether you are NDC, you are MPP, these fathers, they cut across. Some are within the Orthodox, some are within the Pentecostal, some are within the Charismatic, and all form. They cut across. If you think that, they are going to persecute only the people who didn't resign, and they will lump all of them, whether they were, even if they spent a day as members of the board of trustees. Wow. Don't think that you are safe because you resigned. They will lump you, they will disgrace you, and they will try you in the media and destroy your church, destroy your followers. We will not allow that to happen.
Let's finally talk about the CJ. Yesterday, the government spokesperson, Felix Kwachofosu, mentioned that there were 3 petitions before President Mahama, and he has forwarded them to the Council of State for advice on the removal of the Chief Justice.
Yeah, but clearly he has demonstrated his intent from their pronouncement even before the elections. They had clearly stated their intent to destroy the independence of the judiciary. So let them continue to make history. But 4 years will come very shortly, and there will be opportunity to reset. If this is the kind of reset they promised, going after judges, going after chief justices, going after electoral commissioner, going after all kinds, so they can use the rhetorics and gimmicks of, petition here, we refer to Council of State, but they've already made their intent clear. And everybody in Ghana knew that they were going to conduct an onslaught on the Chief Justice, who has so, consensuously and so impartially delivered and will go down in history as one of the best Chief Justices we've ever had in the Fourth Republic this country has ever had. Whatever they want to do, they can go under the guise of legal procedures and do whatever they had intended to do. But you see, if civil society organizations and if Ghanaians are going to be quiet and say that touch 1, touch 2, touch 3, before you know it, it is the very institutions that we've spent, 3 decades in building are the very institutions this reset is about to destroy. And we will only have the opportunity after 2028 to go back and rebuild everything. It will cost us a lot, and it will cost us a lot of the credentials we have obtained as a country, being the beacon within the sub-region, everybody looking up to us, our governance credentials, democratic credentials. They want to erode all these with vindictiveness, unnecessary, vengeance. It is not necessary. President Mahama, if I were him, in his second term, should be an opportunity to right the wrongs in the first term, an opportunity to leave a good name, an opportunity for legacy, an opportunity to unite this country, an opportunity to build upon institutions, an opportunity to go back and be said that, no, we had a president who had a first chance, and clearly 1 million of the population turned him down and sacked him for so many things they thought were wrong. And then gave him an opportunity again another time. But he came and he did what was right. He came and he did not conduct any vengeance. Okay. He came. Some of those vengeance, they are people, they may not even be President Mohammed's personal vengeance. It may be some people around him. Okay. And so he should not allow them to exert their personal vindictiveness. Jakpa and all that he's doing is his personal vendetta. It's his personal scores he's settling. So President Mahama should not allow some elements around him to, have my favorite word, egoistic, tendencies that will have cast issues around his tenure and spoil the good legacy he ought to leave. He has one term. And that's all he has. And he should leave a good name than going after institutions and people and persecuting pastors and all that.
Talking about persecution, finally, this is my final question on Boko. Has the committee received any briefing from the military on the brutalities and the chaos that ensued in Boko?
Boko conflict is one that all of us must be concerned about. Every well-meaning Ghanaian must be concerned about the conflict and all that we can do as a state to resolve this. Let us support President Mahama. He has clearly indicated right from the outset his commitment to bring peace in Boko. And so I appeal that every Ghanaian should support. As we speak, President Mahama has appointed Ntim Fordjour, that's Antihine, to be the chief mediator. And given the kind of respect and how venerable and the credentials that Ntim Fordjour and the gravitas he holds, he is well pleased to assist President Mahama. So far, the processes have started. We are also appealing to all factions within the Boko inter-ethnic, peace building. There was a committee. We are appealing that Boko inter-ethnic peace committee should reconvene. We are appealing that dialogue should reconvene. We are appealing that tempest must calm. And Boko is Ghana. And therefore, whatever happens in Boko has ripple effects also here. And there's lots of resources that the state also will be expending until such a time that is resolved. Those same resources can be used to transform the entire Upper East region. We are appealing that the tempest should calm. We have seen similar such conflicts being resolved. The Dagbon conflict was one very sensitive one, which is of very similar stature. It has been resolved. So we are very confident that if all of us give the support, security agencies are doing their best, Peace Council is doing its best, Ntim Fordjour is doing his best, but more importantly, the feuding factions, we are appealing to them to also allow us play their role. The Defense and Interior Committee is also taking very, bipartisan. My chairman, Honorable Agaga, is very enthused about, whatever the committee can do to support, and we've started it. So all of us should support. Let's bring peace to Boko, and it will be a feather not only in the cap of President Mahama, though he is a leader, he will enjoy that feather and will support him to enjoy it, but it will be a feather in the cap of all Ghanaians that we resolve that conflict.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure having you. That's Reverend GHOne Ntim Fordjour. He's Member of Parliament for Assin South. He is the ranking on the Defense and Interior Committee of Parliament. That's it for Hard Talk. My name is Lily Mohammed.